There we go. Hi, hello everybody. We are going to get started really fast tonight, so bear with me. Normally we have a little music playing and time as people come in. Not tonight. We're getting right on it. So, hi, welcome. If we saw you last week, hello again. If we didn't, hi and welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Eifler, I'm Director of Programming here at Jewish Veg, and tonight it is my honor and pleasure to hand you over right away to our Director of Marketing, Liz Madsen, and I'm going to just quickly hit a few brief housekeeping notes. So the live captioning through Zoom is running. If you are having any trouble accessing that, please let me know in the chat. I will be monitoring our chat tonight, so any questions, comments, introductions, anything you want to say, please feel free to put in the chat. I will be watching that. If you do have any technical problems or questions, again, you can put those in the chat. You can either put that in the regular chat or message it directly to me. And if everyone could please remain on mute unless speaking, that would be really helpful. There will be time for question and answers as well as group participation tonight. So you are welcome to unmute at those times, but please only during those times, just so we can keep things moving. And I believe that takes me through our housekeeping, and I know Liz needs to get going, so I'm going to hand over to them. Go right ahead, Liz.
Okay, hi. Yes, thank you, Sarah, for welcoming us and explaining all the important things. And yes, we're getting going very quickly just so we can get the apples into the oven so they can bake for their full apple-y time. That's definitely a word. So I have some vegan butter here. You can definitely do this oil-free if you prefer. If I was doing this oil-free, I would probably use like some maple syrup to get things kind of liquidy. That okay? We're just making up words. It's fine. So I'm just gonna melt this really quickly. It's very slippery. You could also do aquafaba. I would do it from like an unsalted like a can of chickpeas with no salt added if you were gonna do that. You could also do non-dairy milk, but you want to keep your heat pretty low for that so it doesn't do anything wacky. Okay. That is almost melted. We're going to roll with it. I've got some organic brown sugar here. Of course, you can use date sugar or maple syrup. Date syrup, it's sticking. Making this for my husband. It's a little decadent. I also have coconut sugar here, which is an optional ingredient. I just love it. It just has fall vibes, in my opinion. And it has not been very fall like here, but it will be soon. And I love fall. So I'm just letting the brown sugar kind of start to melt down and mix with the vegan butter. And then I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. And I've got cinnamon and a pinch of nutmeg here. You can do pumpkin pie spice. You can do like add in some cardamom or some ginger. Any of that stuff that you like. Okay, I'm actually going to turn my heat down because this thing is getting a little hot, a little quick. So now I'm going to add my dry ingredients. I've got chopped pecans, walnuts will work. If you can't have nuts, you could use pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds. Just give them a little chop first. And then I'm adding in some rolled oats. You could do more rolled oats if you can't have nuts or if you want to keep it lower fat. I'm just giving that a good mix. And we're really not going to do these as long as normal candied pecans would go because they're going to continue baking in the oven. We don't want them to get burnt. And then I have some chopped raisins here. I have golden raisins, but red raisins would work. And if you're not a raisins person, use your favorite chopped dried fruit. Chopped dates would be amazing. So I'm just giving this a good mix till it's less wet and a little toasty. I guess I can turn it back up a little bit. So we're almost there. This is all of the filling. I'm almost done. I think that's good enough. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to set this aside for a second. Remove my handy dandy hot plate, which allows me to do this while facing you instead of facing my stove. I have my baking dish here. You can line this if you want to, but to be honest, it's still going to be messy. You could probably put parchment paper or foil down if you don't want a mess. So put your apples in here. I have fairly large apples, and I promise after I put this in the oven, I'm going to show you all how I core my apples. I just wanted to get these in the oven quickly. And then you just want to pack your apples full of the filling. I like to use a grapefruit spoon for this because it's angled. So I'm just kind of packing them full. This makes just enough filling for 4 very large apples. So if you have medium or smaller apples, you could probably fit 6 apples worth. Obviously, you just want a nice deep baking dish so that we can bake these in a bath. You can bake them in a water bath or an apple juice bath. I'm doing apple cider today. I was so excited that I found apple cider at the store. And if you have leftover filling, well, that's just delicious. You can eat that by itself. Or you can save it for something else, but I don't know how you'd possibly keep yourself from eating it out of the pan like I do. We're almost done. And if some of them fall in the pan, don't worry about that. That's totally fine. We're going to use it all. This smells so good. It smells like fall. Come on, get in there. All right. One more apple to fill. Just be careful because it's hot and the pan is hot. So I found that out the hard way. If you like chocolate, you can put a few chocolate chips in here. I love the ones from Enjoy Life. Those ones are vegan and I think they're top 9 allergen free, which is cool. Almost there. All right. There we go. We have full apples now. And I'm going to pour my apple cider or apple juice, or again, water is fine, into the pan. And then this is an extra bit of decadence that is not necessary, but it's nice. I put a little pat of vegan butter just on top. And it kind of melts in there and it's pretty delicious, but optional. Okay. I'm going to stick these in the oven and bake them uncovered. As you can see, these are jumbo apples. These are very, very large cosmic crisp apples. So they will take about 45 minutes to an hour to bake. But, you know, we'll take them out at 45 minutes and hopefully they'll be fun. I'm just setting a timer. And you want to baste them halfway through with just the liquid that's sitting in the bottom of the baking dish. So you can use your baster for that, or you can just use a spoon to kind of spoon the liquid over the apples to keep them from drying out. Okay, so now, oh, I promised to show you this is a bonus apple, how I do it. So you can use a spoon, or a melon baller works really well for this. So you're just going to take it and start scooping out the stem. And then you're going to keep going down the center and go until you reach the seeds. You can kind of turn the apple as you go, just getting all this stuff out. And then if you want to take some of the flesh from around the inside walls to make the apples thinner, they'll cook faster, but then, you're just losing a little bit of apple and you're going to need more filling, about the amount I showed you. And if you don't do this step, then you'll just have a little leftover filling, which nobody minds. So just go until you get to the seeds, get those seeds out of there because we don't want to eat those. And then stop, because you don't want to go all the way through the apple. And that's why an apple corer won't work, because you'll go all the way through the apple and then all your filling will come out. And then this is an extra step, but I kind of like everything to sit nice and flat on top of my apple. So I take my little paring knife and I just kind of slice off the top of it. Do not cut apples the way I do. I am making this work for my disability, but this is not a safe way to do it. You do it on a cutting board, cut away from yourself. Do as I say, not as I do. Right? Isn't that how it works? All right, here we go. So now we have a nice flat apple. If I weren't just showing you, I'd probably take a little bit more of that inner flesh out, but I'm going to eat this in a little bit. So there we go. All right, let's make the sauces. So we can make these now. I have a tahini version and I have an almond butter version for my sesame allergists, sesame allergic people. Sorry, Jody, but the tahini version does taste like liquid halva, so it's really good. But the almond butter version is also really good. It's like a fall hug. So I definitely recommend that. So this is a 2-ingredient sauce. You're just going to take agave or maple syrup, put it in your tahini. That's ridiculously easy. And then probably grab a stirring implement. Give it a nice stir. Taste it, but this is a pretty good consistency as is. And you can set that aside and it smells amazing. Okay. The almond butter is a little bit more tricky because the almond butter is pretty thick. So I'm going to add my agave or maple syrup. You can add a little bit of another fork. I need another fork. You can add a little bit of vanilla extract to this. See, this mixes in just fine, but it's not exactly drizzling consistency. So I'm going to add a little hot water. This is cold water. It will take forever to heat up. So we're just going to roll with it. So you're just going to keep mixing it until you have a nice, that's not a drizzling consistency because I didn't use hot water. Use hot water. But yeah, we have a nice drizzling consistency now. I'll probably warm that up before I serve it. But it's really nice on top of the baked apples. And wow, okay, I'm done. That was fast, but we got this. And I will see you when we are ready to baste the apples.
Hello, everyone. I am Jody Graber, Director of Development for Jewish Veg. Spoke to you a little bit last week and very honored to be here with you this evening. And I am someone who is just not good in the kitchen at all. So I'm always in awe when I watch Liz. So thank you, Liz. So what I want to do is talk to you a little bit tonight and really have a discussion with you this evening about a few things. First about wellness. And I think it's a really good time of year to do that. We are a week and 2 days or so away from Rosh Hashanah, a really meaningful time in our lives every year. So I always love to start wellness conversations with the Maimonides quote, "No disease that can be treated by diet should be treated by any other means." And I always like to share that because I feel like it reinforces our plant-based values, that at the very least, we are giving ourselves a solid foundation. We're doing the most that we can by eating, by following a plant-based diet, living a plant-based lifestyle. And the other quote that I wanted to share this evening was the Hillel quote: "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?" And again, being a week, just over a week away from Rosh Hashanah, we ask ourselves, if not now, when? When are we going to do the best that we can do? We can only ask of ourselves to be the best that we can be. So I feel like now is as good a time as any to really focus on our well-being, our wellness. And when we connect our Jewish values and our well-being, there are two concepts that I want to speak to you about this evening. And if you've been with Jewish Veg at previous events, you've heard this before, but I'm going to ask you to maybe listen in a different way, hear something different in this, and see how it resonates with you, again, a week or so before Rosh Hashanah, our time of new beginnings. So the first is pikuach nefesh, the concept that human life is so essential that pikuach nefesh, the obligation to save a life, is something we must do. And we learn in the Mishnah Torah, written by Maimonides, that pikuach nefesh overrides the commandments of Shabbat. That is how important it is to save a life. It overrides the commandments of Shabbat. And we also read this in the Shulchan Aruch. But I wanted to speak about this again this evening because the duty to safeguard health and the sacredness of pikuach nefesh is also stressed to us in connection with fasting on Yom Kippur. A sick person is obliged to break the fast. So that could mean not fasting at all, fasting only in the morning, depending on what your body can handle. That's what you do. But a sick person is told not to fast the whole day of Yom Kippur. And that's why I wanted to bring this up again, pikuach nefesh, because it's sacred. And we're entering a very sacred time in our life cycle, in our calendar. And the next thing I want to talk to you about is what we learn in Deuteronomy: to guard yourself and guard your soul very carefully. And that's something I think to think about when we're in this month of Elul now, as we transition then into the high holidays. And for those of you who observe, who go to services, to really think about that when you're sitting and you're standing and you're listening and you're reading and you're praying. Guard yourself and guard your soul very carefully. And biblical commentators have understood this to be the religious imperative of taking care of our body and our soul. And our tradition calls this mitzvah of health shmirat haguf. Shmirat haguf. Let that sit, let it land with you, maybe differently this time of year. And we learn in the Talmud that it is forbidden to dwell in a city which has no vegetable garden. Where is your vegetable garden? Do you have one? Now, I will admit, in my small New York City apartment, I do not have a garden, but I am very fortunate that I have farmers markets year round that I can go to and that I can talk to farmers. I can buy food fresh from the garden, basically, fresh from the fields. I actually had an experience this past weekend in Massachusetts. I needed some dill for my chickpea tuna. We went to the farmer's market, and Farmer Lauren, as I called her, went into the field to cut the dill. I mean, that was fresh dill. So there are ways that we can do things. We can find ways to really take care of our bodies and our souls and to feel it. So now every day that I'm eating my chickpea tuna, it is my go-to lunch. I remember what Farmer Lauren did. And I remember the dill coming straight from the fields. And it's very meaningful for me. And I want to add also, the Jewish philosopher Philo of Alexandria said, "The body is the soul's house. Therefore, shouldn't we take care of our house so that it doesn't fall into ruin?" And again, at this time of year, when I'm thinking about going into the synagogue, going into such a spiritual place where I and most people, I believe, would never think to do anything to harm the inside. You wouldn't throw garbage on the floor. You take care of your house of worship, and think of your bodies and your soul as precious as the house of worship, even more so, because pikuach nefesh, we have to save a life. So I feel like too, this is different for everyone, how we feel when we walk into the synagogue, how we feel when we prepare our food, like Liz is doing so amazingly well and interesting. And so I want to ask you, what plans can you make for the new year to uplift yourself, your family, your friends? And one thing I'm starting to think about too is there a way that you want to share the benefits and values of a plant-based lifestyle with others in this new year? So I do invite you now, if you want to unmute yourself, or if you want to raise your hand in on your Zoom on your Zoom dashboard, and would love to hear from you. If anyone has thoughts on pikuach nefesh, shmirat haguf, what you want for your body and soul in the new year.
Hi, this is Becky. I'm not sure how to do the hand up in the Zoom. But I'm going to try to work at least one or two little local veg fests and try to spread some awareness. Although the veg fest, people most likely already know about veganism and being and the lifestyle. I'd like to bring something else to the table to maybe share it with people there who might be just coming with somebody who they might not be vegan, and just going over some things and talking to them about how wonderful it is and how simple, and there's just joy from it. So just joy and life. So that's what I'd like to do.
Thank you very, very much for sharing that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. If anyone else wants to share, we'd love to hear from you, because remember, you could have a really great idea that someone else hadn't thought of. And like for me, and now I'm thinking, well, I should invite someone who is not my friends who are not vegan to a veg fest. So thank you, Becky. Deborah.
Hello.
Hi.
Love these meetings. These are always so productive and inspiring. I moved about 2.5 months ago from a rural area back to the city, but I moved in with an old friend of mine, and I am whole food plant-based and he is not. But one thing that I've tried to do, and it's catching on because I haven't been forcing myself with this way of life onto him, but showing him how delicious food can be that is not highly processed and is whole food plant-based. And we have a theme every night, a few nights a week when we do find time to eat together. And what I'd like to do is keep on moving forward to hopefully see him really embracing this more, because he says, you know what, Deborah, I just feel better. I don't feel bloated. My joints aren't aching as much. And I'm like, So sometimes I think just the process of being patient with whoever we are dealing with, meeting people where they are. And that is something I think that we all have to remember and embrace, is meet people where they are and let them decide where they want to go from what you're introducing to them. But that's something I think I'm going to continue to do as we move through this new year. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We're so glad you're here, and we really appreciate you sharing that. And I agree, it is really important to meet people where they are, because you just never know what is going to be the conversation that makes the shift. I'll be honest, a lot of times people talk about their veganiversary. Am I saying that right? I don't know when mine is. It happened over time. I took 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and so on. So thank you for sharing that. That was lovely. I appreciate that. All right. Anybody? Is there anyone else? Or I don't see anything. Oh, sorry, Stan. Or
Remember
you're
Vanessa.
Hi,
hello.
this is Alyssa, and I'm
Yes.
Stan's wife. And he's over there. So I wanted to just express appreciation for this conversation. And the idea of meeting people where they are is really important. So I've been vegan since 2012. And I just wanted to recognize, and I'm just going to speak for myself, that I dove into it as a raw living foodist, and I'm not that now. I mean, I eat cooked food and different things, but recently I've been like, I used to be grossed out by the smell of meat and all this. Recently, it's been smelling good to me. And a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple months ago, I just thought, I have to have an egg. I have to have an egg. And I ate a few eggs. And then I thought, oh my goodness, what did I just do? But my point is that when we say that when we characterize ourselves as vegan, but then, every once in a while, I don't know about the people here, but if I'm in a place and there's some really good looking cake or something, I may have a bite of it and it's not completely vegan. And so the idea of meeting people where they are, I mean, I'm a vegan activist. I founded Vegan Spirituality Southwestern Pennsylvania. I just wrote a book, and it has 5 chapters on moving into plant-based. And I ate a few eggs a couple months ago, and so then I realized when I was a real vigilante, when I was a raw living foodist, but now it's just like, well, wait a minute, we're human here. And this is the experience. So I just appreciate you bringing that up, and thank you all for being here and doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that's why I said to you at a few minutes ago, what can we do to be our best? And we are all different. We are all on our own paths, and no one can tell us what path we should be on.
I also appreciate what you said, Jody, about the importance of what veganism means to Judaism. And it's just like such an unknown concept at every level of Judaism. And so anything that we do, you know, create potlucks within our synagogues, even in the community, invite other, you know, make it, you know, with other religions or other spiritual traditions. And we did a Rosh Hashanah Lehabemot event at our synagogue. When was that? About 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it was, the 20th of August or the 15th of Elul, I don't know. But
it's celebrated. It's actually on the 1st of Elul, which was a Friday, and we had it on Sunday.
Okay, did you hear that? That was stamped. So we had it on a Sunday, and we had 2 rescue turkeys there, and we had a rescue pig. It was a Reform synagogue that we were at that day. And then there was a therapy dog. And it was a great event. Anyway, okay, I'll stop there.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. Let me just ask, Liz, do you need to tell us something yet, and then Phyllis will get to you?
Yeah, we're definitely at the point where we could baste. It's about halfway through. So I'm gonna get this out and try not to slosh any of the hot liquid on myself.
And then Phyllis, when Liz is done, we'll come back to you.
Okay, so I have my apples here. They're starting to get. Oh, I did unmute. Okay, good. I don't remember doing that, but that's okay. Maybe someone unmuted me. I have my baster here. Again, you could use a spoon. So I'm just going to take some of this cooking liquid and kind of drizzle it over the inside and the outside of the apple. Just wherever you can get it to kind of make sure the skin is not going to get too dried out. It's not going to burn.
Liz, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you tilt your screen down just a bit?
There, how's that?
Thank you.
I'm not even tall, but I'm too tall for this, so it can come off my head, but that's okay. Eventually I'll figure out a way to do this where I have 2 cameras. You can just do it a couple times, however many times it takes to get the apples nice and saturated. This is why I like to use apple juice or apple cider, because it really, you know, imbues even more. Is that the right word? I don't know. Puts in more apple flavor, but water will also work just fine. It won't taste bad or anything. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now open back up my oven, put it back in there. And your apples, if they are smaller than this, they may take less time. So be checking on it. It's just like anything else. You can prick a fork into it, and if it slides in easily like a potato, it's done. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
All right, so Phyllis.
Well, speaking about temple dinners, we belong to a Reconstructionist synagogue, and they had a dinner, and there wasn't a vegetarian option, so we asked for one, and from now on they are providing a vegetarian option, which I think is really important because there's a good percentage of people in that temple. I don't know vegan, but you know, I know they don't eat meat. So with me, most of my diet is plant-based, but I'm petite, and I really want to make sure I get my 45 grams of protein every day, and I don't cook. So you know, some of the things I use now are I use like some yogurt and some Trader Joe's has these. I tried like plant-based chicken tenders, but they're awful. So they have these little chicken drumettes that I like. But the thing is, I'm looking for foods that are healthful and not too high in calories, because I can only take about 1,000 a day, and you know, have pretty low sodium and protein. So I'm going to look for some options. I think this meeting is very inspiring, and I think I probably could find some cheese that's vegan cheese that I could use instead. And maybe they had silk yogurt, but it just was loaded with sugar, and it just, you know, it just isn't a thing that I would eat. So you know, that's it. I think I must say I've been trying to eat healthy for years and years. And it's been hard. It's getting easier because now there are options that are low sodium and lower fat and, healthier. And of course, they put all the statistics on the package, so you can pretty much make a wise choice. But I'm going to try to find some plant-based options instead of the few, non-vegetarian things that I'm eating.
Well,
Thank
Phyllis, I thank you, excuse me, and I invite you to email us at Jewish Veg. We're happy to help you, guide you, give you resources so that you can find what works for you. So I invite anyone who wants some guidance, who wants resources, or who wants to know what we're eating, how we're getting protein and all the nutrients that we need. Please do, and we are happy to help in any way. So now what I wanted to also talk about was some spiritual wellness, which we've kind of touched on a bit, but I found something from Moving Traditions that I really wanted to share. So during this month of Elul, it is thought to be a time that we go inward before we turn outward to others and to our new beginnings. And this spiritual turning inward is done to reflect on the year that has passed, to celebrate what we achieved, and also to be honest with ourselves. And that's just a one-on-one conversation with ourselves about maybe what we ignored or what we avoided. And this turning inward is really a returning to the holiness that is within each and every one of us and our precious lives. It's turning into the breath of life that we have inside us, our eternal light that is shining. And in turning inward, we gain a sense of shlemut, wholeness. And with that sense of wholeness, we can then turn outward with chesed, with loving kindness to family, friends, and others. And in this season that we're also recommitting to caring for others. And then when we join together in community, like we are this evening, and use our power for good, we advance tzedek, our vision of a more just and equitable world. All of these concepts relate not only to human beings, but to our animal friends as well. We feel a wholeness, the shlemut, when we're eating the life force of plants, and when we can look at the animals that do get to roam free because of choices that we're making. And our chesed, of course, is about caring for the animals that roam the earth, not just for humans. And tzedek is the belief that those who have been victimized and oppressed can be restored to wholeness through justice. And I'm sure you've all heard this before, but there is a lot of justice to pursue in animal agriculture. And so I invite you again to think about shlemut and chesed and tzedek as you begin a new year. And one thing that I've been thinking about is journaling and meditation. I go back and forth. I do both, not consistently. And so I'd love to hear from you, from anyone here who does journaling, meditation, something else where the practice of doing what they do really brings you back to that shlemut, that feeling of wholeness, which then gives you the foundation and the power of chesed and and tzedek. So I see Brandon, I think, saying playing music, instruments. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yoga, Liz, awesome. Yeah, yeah, yoga is another thing that I say I'm going to do more of. I'm going to do more of. And I think I do more of it, just not as consistently as I want to. And the thing is, when I do it, I feel whole. I finish and I feel whole. Or when I do a meditation, I will say, and Sarah, I'm sorry, I think I saw you. Did you say poetry in there? I do a meditation every night. I put on my meditation app, but then I fall asleep. So I'm not sure. I guess that counts because it helps me fall asleep. But I do want to do some more awareness meditation when I am actually awake. But wow, there are some great comments coming in here. And I'm just catching some of them here, but let me just open my chat up fully here. Phyllis, I love that. Donating to causes I believe in is beautiful. Hiking, sleeping under a tree, Danielle. Wow, love that. Becky is journaling. I love that. Writing a sentence or two of something you're grateful for. That's a beautiful thing. And I'm so glad you wrote that, Becky, because I think too that a lot of times people feel like they have to meditate for 30 minutes or an hour or journal 17 pages, 18 pages. And it can all be very, very simple. And again, we're all on our own path to do it. So really, really appreciate what everyone's saying. If anyone wants to share, please feel free and raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you, but I love these gardening. I'm just trying to see if I, excuse me, if I missed any. I don't know if I said walking around a lake, but that's got to be a beautiful thing to do. I used to walk around the reservoir in Central Park, and I have not done that in a long time. So thank you, LaTanya. I'm going to have to do that. All right. So thank you all for sharing those. Those are beautiful. Yeah, looking for short opportunities. Yeah, it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to take long, and we can really, I think, ground ourselves and give us the opportunity to return inward. So thank you for sharing all that. I'm sorry, Liz, do you need us yet? Okay. just want to be sure, because I know we're all really here for the cooking. So I want to be sure that we get to see everything you are doing. All right. So I also want to talk about wellness, healing for our planet. How many times a day do we hear or read about climate change? Thousands? I don't know. It feels like thousands. And I'm bringing this up because I feel a lot of times that climate activists don't necessarily want to hear about a plant-based lifestyle. And I understand that their mission is to get the big corporations to make change, to stop with the fossil fuels and investing in all the things that are harming the planet. I 150% understand that and believe it. However, as we're saying here, we're talking about, being on our own path and such. I feel like we as individuals also have so much power to create change. We need the big corporations to make change, but we as individuals have the power to do that as well. And I love what Jewish author Jonathan Safran Foer wrote in his book, We Are the Weather, Saving the Planet Begins at Breakfast. He wrote, changing how we eat will not be enough on its own to save the planet, but we cannot save the planet without changing how we eat. And so I feel like I want to carry that around, carry that statement, that quote around, and just share it with anyone I meet who wants to talk about climate change, and in a nice and friendly way. I want to share that with them, so maybe it shifts them the slightest bit to start thinking about the food on our plate. And there are just more and more and more studies that are telling us that we have to look at animal agriculture and a shift to plant-based diets to save the earth. And there's a lot of actually statistics that I've prepared to share with you. And I don't know if I'm going to go through all of them. But I'll start by saying that the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, according to the United Nations Food and Animal Agriculture Organization, animal agriculture generates over 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That is more than the exhaust emissions from the world's cars, trucks, planes, and ships combined. That's how devastating, really, animal agriculture is. And only about 27% of these emissions are carbon dioxide. The rest are nitrous oxide and methane. And this is important because, and I'm reading more and more about this because I want to understand more. But it's important because the nitrous oxide and methane are more potent greenhouse gas emissions than carbon dioxide. So that means that while methane and the nitrous oxide do not last as long as carbon dioxide, they trap heat more intensely. Methane is about 30 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide is about 270 times more powerful. It's so in our face, really, what animal agriculture is doing to our planet. However, as much as it is in our face, it's easy to ignore it. If a person who eats meat goes to the supermarket and buys it, they are not thinking about all that has happened prior to that meat being in the supermarket. And it's important to understand it so that people will start to shift. They'll start to create change, even if it is a slow change, even if it's starting with a meatless Monday or vegan breakfast, to start to see. And I think it was Deborah who was saying, so that just so people can start to appreciate how delicious whole foods, how delicious plants are, how delicious vegan food is. I mean, we can see from what Liz is preparing, that is going to be, we can almost like taste it through the screen, can't we? So it is really important to understand this. And research also suggests that even if the world stopped using fossil fuels today, our current food system, animal agriculture, factory farming, makes keeping global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius impossible. And that relates to the Paris Agreement, when all of the climate researchers and scientists were coming together to say that it shouldn't really be more than 2 degrees, but trying to get it to 1.5. And research is saying, even if all the fossil fuels, even if the world stopped using fossil fuels today, our current food system makes keeping global warming below that impossible. So if we want people to make shifts and to understand what animal agriculture is doing, we have to share this information more and more in a very respectful way. So I would love to know from all of you, those of you who want to share on this call, how involved are you with climate change? What do you hear about animal agriculture and its effects on climate change? Oh, Michael, great. Would love to hear from you.
Thanks. Yeah, I do spend a lot of time doing some research and try to learn as much as I can. As far as fossil fuels and versus animal agriculture, first of all, fossil fuels, we have 2 electric cars, we have solar panels on the roof. All that does is puts less carbon into the atmosphere. It doesn't remove carbon out of the atmosphere. The only way to remove it is to sequester it into the oceans and into vegetation, into trees and the ground. And the best way to do that is to replace all the land that's used not just for raising animals, but raising the food crops to feed the animals, just to allow all of that to be rewilded. And then the trees that grow will naturally sequester the carbon. So that's why the 87% figure takes into account all these aspects. If you read that book, Food is Climate, it's only like, I think, 60 pages. And actually, it's got half the book is vegan recipes. But it is well worth the read. And it'll be very clear as to why all these UN statistics just don't paint an accurate picture. So it's actually, I mean, we hear that it's an existential threat, but we see that it's slowly changing our climate. We can see that we're having more events in nature that are causing us issues. I mean, we're not gonna burn up tomorrow, but it's just going to change the way we live. So I would urge everybody to read that book and try to learn as much as you can so you can share it with other people. But eliminating animal farming is, that alone actually could be enough. You could fly in airplanes, go on cruises, and even though that puts carbon in the air, the amount that is sequestered from rewilding farmland is far greater.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And
what was the name
Wendy?
of the book? That's not what I wanted to ask, but
Yes. The name of the book, I think, was Food is Climate.
Right.
That's what I thought. Okay. And I did have something I wanted to.
Yes, please go right ahead.
So I'm here in California, in the Silicon Valley area. Our synagogue has a sustainability group. And it's interesting because sustainability is not called animal rights. It's sustainability. And it's interesting so far. I haven't gotten involved with the group yet. I plan to. But it is interesting that plant-based, I'm not even going to veganism. Plant-based is not something, not to be funny, but it's not something on the table. It's not a consideration. And they're really afraid, those people who have started the group are concerned that if they bring up animal rights and eating plants instead, they're going to alienate a certain percentage of the people. So I do think we have our hands full with this issue. And I do think it's absolutely critical, as Mr. Barth, I don't remember what his first name was, but he mentioned, I mean, that book sounds excellent, Food is Climate. We're talking about half a problem.
Yeah.
And we're not going to solve anything that way. And until we're willing to look it straight in the eye and say, this is what it will take. And even as time passes, we have less and less of a chance of affecting that change. So, you know, we may be in the eye of a horrendous storm that we never anticipated and have no choice to turn it back if we don't do something soon. That's been said for probably what, 4 decades now? I remember studying this in college in the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's,
Well,
it's a
I
bit,
will, oh, excuse me, Wendy,
Go
I
ahead.
will share, I am speaking at a synagogue in New Rochelle, New York this weekend, on Sunday. And what you brought up is a very similar conversation that I had with the chair of their social action committee. They were afraid to bring someone in who was going to talk about plant-based lifestyles because it was going to upset people. And I assured them, I said, I am not coming in to tell people that they are bad or wrong if they are eating animal products, if they are not vegan. That's not what Jewish Veg wants to do. It's not what I personally want to do. We want to share the information we're sharing tonight. We want to have this dialogue so that we can have the best information that we have and then do the best that we can with that information as human beings, as imperfect human being, you know, the imperfect human beings that we are. So I appreciate you saying that. And maybe we can talk, maybe maybe Jewish Veg can do a presentation for the congregation where people can just hear this information and let it sink in and let them let them hear it. I'm gonna share the book Food is Climate. I have to say I have not read it myself yet, but we can share these resources so that people can start to make even small change. And once they start on that trajectory, they're on their path. So thank you very much for sharing that.
one small other thing, Blue Zones. There is a movie out that we just saw about the 100-year-old. It's about the centenarians. And what was interesting is, whereas I thought Blue Zones were all vegan, they're not. Blue Zones are not vegan. There's one, I think, out of all of them was actually mostly vegan. It's not that they eat a lot of meat. They eat 90-some-odd% plants, but they almost all include either some eggs in their baking, or they include a little something. The Italians include a little bit of cheese with their pasta, but they all include a little bit of something. 2 differences. One is they're not using commercial agriculture. They're using local, but they are eating it. So even that, maybe that would help those people who are not ready to turn the corner to say, look, there's more than one way to do this. You don't have to just go, I'm vegan tomorrow and I can't ever have anything again.
Yeah.
But rather say, you know what, there's baby steps. And for you, this may be what works, but it'll be a lot better than maybe what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Just to broach the subject.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that very much. Before we take a next question, I just want to check in with Liz.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them out of the oven really quick.
Okay.
I think they're done. Whoa. Hot. So they're all done. Notice that they did change color, but because they were so red to begin with, they stayed pretty red, pretty pink. So I'm going to carefully lift one of these out of here. Fork is not really the best way to do it, but that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to do this one. Actually, I'm going to angle the camera down first. So here we go. Let's see here if I can do my oven mitt. Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay. I would recommend holding a utensil in your other hand. I can't do that because of a disability I have. But that's what I would recommend, or get somebody to help you. My husband is currently making sure our dog stays quiet in the bedroom. So I have my apple here. This one is for said husband, so I am going to top it with some vegan vanilla ice cream. This one I have here is so delicious, coconut milk. A little ice cream scoop fits perfectly on there. And then I'll take one of our drizzling sauces and give that a nice stir. And this sauce keeps well in the refrigerator. If it gets too thick, you just mix in a little bit of hot water. And let's see if I can cut this open backwards on film or on camera. Let's see here. Can I do this? Oops. Oh, all that liquid comes seeping out. There we go. So you can kind of see it's all filled with deliciousness. I might just sneak a wee little bite. I'm pretty full from eating that other apple, but you know, oh, see here. It was hot, but it was really good. So there you go, baked apples. Hope you enjoy and make your kitchen smell amazing.
Wow. Liz, that looks incredible. I'm telling you, I can taste it through the screen, but it's not fair because I really can't. Wendy and Elisa, I see your hands up. However, I also see the hour, and it's 9 Eastern here in New York City. So I just want to ask if there are any questions about the recipe. If people have questions that they want to ask Liz about the recipe, please let us know, because we want to make sure you feel comfortable making this for your Rosh Hashanah table, for your holiday tables.
I'm sure I'm going to throw myself up for a second. So if people do need to go because of the time, please do feel free to do so. And if you want to stay on and ask questions of Liz or of myself and Jody, please feel free to do so. And Jody, I know you had wanted to just mention a few things about Jewish Veg before we let people go. So feel free to do that. And then, yeah, so anyone who wants to stay on, we'll stop the recording. We'll hang out for a little bit to answer your questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. So what I spoke a little bit about this last week, the Jewish Veg rabbinic statement, which is coming. It is coming soon. We are, I mentioned last week, we have now over 200 rabbis who have signed the statement and who are urging their followers to look at and adopt plant-based lifestyles. So this is really one major way that we at Jewish Veg are working to get this message out. I mean, imagine the power, if you will, that rabbis have, and the way we as Jews look up to rabbis. One day we're going to have our own Rabbi Sarah right here with us. So we are going to be sharing the statement soon, the video, and it's really a very, very exciting project. And as a nonprofit organization, we need your help. We need your financial support to help us to get this message out so that people do understand why the power of a plant-based lifestyle on our health, for animals, for the earth, for our planet, and for social justice. And we didn't really get a chance to talk a lot about that this evening. So I'm asking you on behalf of Jewish Veg, if you are able to donate $36, that would be great. If you can donate more, wonderful. And if you are not able to do $36, if you would consider an amount that is meaningful for you to support our rabbinic statement, it would mean the world to us to have your support so that we can get this information out, we can share it, we can contact even more rabbis, Jewish community centers, more synagogues, and share this vital message that we all of us who are here and who have registered for these sessions care so much about. So I appreciate that. I think the link is in the chat. We'll also send it in the follow-up email. So please know every dollar means the world to us and makes a big difference. So thank you very much for allowing me to share that. And for those of you who do need to leave now, thank you so very, very much for joining us for one or both of these sessions. And I just want to thank you, Liz, for all you have shared with us last week and this week. It's incredible. You are amazing in the kitchen. You are brilliant. And we thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for giving me this amazing platform. I just love sharing recipes. It's so much fun. I have to believe that this is what my catering Jewish grandmother would have wanted, would have loved. And don't forget to check your email either tomorrow or probably Friday, if we're being honest. I will send around the recipe book again, which has this recipe and 17 other recipes that are plant-based and perfect for your Rosh Hashanah table, or just dinner and a snack. Let's be honest, that's what's happening at my house.
Thank you all so much, and Shana Tova.
Natova.